Keep on riding with us as we continue to broadcast the balance and defend the discourse from these Hip Hop Weekly studios. Welcome back to the show. I am still your host, Ramses Ja.
He is Ramses Ja. I am Q Ward. You are tuned in to Civic Cypher.
And be sure to stick around because we have a special guest who is joining us live from the middle of the ocean right now. We're really excited to talk to her and about all the wonderful things that she is doing and attempting to do to make this world a bit of a better place. She goes by the name of Jessica Clotfelter. She is with the About Face Veterans Delegation of the global Sumud Flotilla. You can find her online on all social media at Bay Franklin, and she's going to be talking to us about her support of Gaza, in spite of recent developments with respect to the war in Gaza from the nation state of Israel and the escalation of said war. But before we get there, let's talk about her organization for becoming a better ally, our Baba segment. And so today's Baba, we want you to check out aboutfaceveterans.org. I'm going to share from their website. We are post 9/11 service members and veterans organizing to end a foreign policy of permanent war and the use of military weapons, tactics, and values in communities across the country. As people intimately familiar with the inner workings of the world's largest military, we use our knowledge and experience to expose the truth about these conflicts overseas and the growing militarization of our communities here at home. Originally formed in 2004 as Iraq Veterans Against the War, we began by speaking out against a war based on lies. Deeply informed by Vietnam veterans against the war before us, we are part of a legacy of service members organizing against the wars that we serve in. Now, as About Face Veterans Against the War, we've expanded our membership and our work to take on the militarism that guides our international policy, erodes our communities at home and abroad, and makes politicians and defense companies rich. We are building a movement of service members and veterans to tackle the root causes of war by transforming ourselves, our values, and American society. We understand that the same institutions and policies that wage wars overseas also target communities of color, indigenous people, and poor people inside of the United States. We believe that taking action in solidarity with all the people impacted by wars abroad and at home is critical to realizing our vision of a world free of militarism. And if you want to learn more, or make a donation, you can find out how to do either of those things at aboutfaceveterans.org. Again, that's aboutfaceveterans.org. I've given them a once over. They look like wonderful people on a mission to make the world a better place, just like our guest calling in live from the middle of the ocean. So again, help them make a difference. Once again, that's aboutfaceveterans.org. Okay, Jessica, first off, kudos to you on your bravery. The world is increasingly a more dangerous place, and your resilience and your commitment to doing your best to make a difference, it resonates with me. We've known each other for some time, and I am inspired by your activism. So the first thing I want to say is, kudos to you for making a difference and showing people what activism should look like.
Thank you, Ramses, for the introduction. I greatly appreciate it, and thank you for using your platform to highlight what's going on in Palestine with the Palestinian people.
Absolutely. So, talk to us about the global Sumud Flotilla. Tell us, for folks that don't know, what is that? What is the point of that, and why are you on that?
Yeah, absolutely. The global Sumud Flotilla is a historic maritime movement, first of its kind, organized by regular citizens of the world. We are peaceful, non-violent activists. We have hundreds of participants. We have 50 or 60 boats. We're meeting up with our boats from Italy here in the coming hours. But essentially, we're doing what our governments refuse to do, which is break the illegal siege on Gaza and establish a humanitarian aid corridor to Gaza. Earlier this summer, the Madeleine tried to do the same thing. They were one boat. They were intercepted, kidnapped, and detained by the occupation forces. Same with the Hondola that Chris Smalls was on. And the Conscious was bombed in Turkey, I believe, before they even got a chance to take off. So we are just hundreds of regular people. We're parents, teachers, electricians, firefighters, professors, journalists, and we're trying to just highlight this on legal siege in Gaza and in Palestine.
Okay, well, we appreciate that. And I think that we've heard of things like this before, but as you mentioned, they're typically intercepted at sea. Somehow, as you mentioned, the Israeli occupation forces somehow catch them beforehand. So I'm guessing the new strategy is to kind of organize with, other movements and try to make some inroads there to kind of provide sustenance, maybe strategy, et cetera, for the people on the ground in Gaza. Do I have that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. The times before, they just sent one ship, and it was decided, let's send as many as we can from as many countries as we can. Okay. So we'll see how it ends up. We're planning for contingencies for multiple ways that this could go. Gotcha.
So talk to us about face veterans. That's we mentioned them for our Baba segment and how people can donate and support, but what is their role in this overall push? And what is your role specifically?
Just as the mission statement kind of says, we all are post 9/11 veterans, and I think that matters because we were children when it was decided that our lives were worth being war fodder for the United States. I was 17 when my parents signed me over to the Marine Corps. I have 6 other veterans with me here. About Face does tremendous direct actions and activism work back in the States. There's a chapter in every state. And I think it's important that we're here because it's not a secret that veterans are kind of put on a different kind of platform. And we have seen the horrors of war. We've witnessed the horrors of imperialism. And it's important for people to know that there's another way. And the people have spoken.
So let's talk about the state of Gaza right now, because, for people that maybe they lost a lot of momentum after the election and haven't really been keeping up with, politics, for someone like you to provide our listeners some insight into life on the ground in Gaza. Talk to us again about the state of Gaza at present.
At present, the occupation forces are doing a ground invasion of Gaza City. Since being on this boat, we've seen a tremendous increase of violence against the Palestinian people. And it's not been going on for just these 2 years, right? It's been going on for 77 plus. So when people say this started October 7th, no, it didn't. I would encourage people to get out and research and read. Go befriend the Palestinian people in your city. Go befriend the Palestinian people who are online, because that is fatal to the narrow-mindedness of this issue.
Now, I think that it's important to point out that where this comes from, just to kind of make that live a little bit, it was reported earlier this week that Israel was invading Gaza. And in that report, it was noted that over 400,000 people fled the city once troops entered the city. So talk to us about what changes for the people that are still in Gaza as a result of this.
I mean, they've been living like this, directly for 2 years. It sickens me. We're seeing people from the north having to flee to the south and being executed on their way, using routes that the IDF has said is clear for evacuation. My very, very close friend Asma is from Khan Yunis. I've seen her be displaced 7 times within the last 18 months. She's taking care of a family of 7, and she's now sleeping on sand on the beach without a tent, exposed to the elements. And the last message that I received from her was that there are no children left, Jessica, who is going to fly our banner when we are gone. This is my friend. And I hate to pull the proximity card. I feel like that's the problem in getting a lot of Americans to care, is because we think we have to have proximity to each other. But that distinction of separation isn't real. It doesn't exist. I don't know, how people can look at the faces, the screams, the sheer terror that we've seen just in the last few days of this new wave of displacement, and keep scrolling. This is the most recorded genocide of modern time right in front of our screens every single day, and we still have people who are genocide deniers, and just quite truly don't care. It sickens us to watch. We're on our way. We're trying to get there as fast as we can, but even when we get there, we're dropping the aid and we're going. We're not boots on the ground. We're not stopping. We can't. This is unfortunately the best that we can do right now. But with you using your platform and more people speaking out, I just pray to God that this gets into people's hearts more than it has been.
Yeah. Talk to us a bit about, because I mentioned the last election. There were a lot of people that leading up to the election were very much concerned about Gaza. Do you feel like, well, and I know the answer is really obvious, but I guess I'll ask it this way. How do you feel that the Trump presidency has affected Americans' view of Gaza? Do you think that people now think of it as a lost cause and you want to remind them that it isn't? Or do you think of people just kind of moved on because of the news cycle? In your estimation, how has Trump's presidency affected the sentiments of the American population?
I think that they have succeeded in a large part in getting Americans to accept the otherness that we tend to do with people that we think that are different than us. One thing that I do notice, though, is a lot more, I call them, regular people like you and me. We're not affiliated with government in any way.
Right.
Going out and hitting the streets, marches. The Arizona-Palestine Solidarity Alliance is leading a lot from Phoenix and different cities around Arizona. I'm seeing, I live in Illinois now in a very rural town, and I'm seeing, these rural farmers. Palestine is now in their everyday conversation. So it's easy to get discouraged, but that's because the opposition is louder and love doesn't bark. It just shows up. So I take solace in that.
I love that. Now, speaking of, taking solace in kind of the reality of the situation, at the same time we found out about the Israeli invasion force, there was an independent UN Human Rights Commission that said that Israel is committing a genocide in Gaza in its war against Hamas. And I have to mention this because this is a journalistically credible show. This is a finding that Israel notably rejects. But how does this finding, the UN finding that suggests that Israel is indeed committing a genocide, how does that affect things for your organization?
I'm not sure if it's going to affect things for our organization. This is something that we've known. If you've been paying attention, you've known. What it does do, though, is it puts pressure on governments and economies to not do business with Israel. And in fact, that's the only way that the apartheid in South Africa was ended, because it became so bad for business for countries to do anything with them. And I'll let you guess who the last country was to do business with them.
So wait, you mentioned, just because since you're on a boat, it's sometimes what you're saying is a little hard to hear. You mentioned something about the last country to do business. So I want you to say that
South
again.
Africa. Yeah, it's not lost on me that Israel was, the last to support apartheid South Africa, even when it became bad for business. But it was by design.
Gotcha. So this is one of the things that has happened once upon a time, is that there were these demands for divestment from Israeli-backed companies or Israeli resources or whatever it was. And this was really, I guess, these calls were loudest on college campuses around the country. And this is, where I think that I've seen you like in person doing like actually strategizing and organizing on the ground was on college campuses. And obviously the college campuses have had to pivot and adopt a different posture relative to this current administration. What are some of the newer calls for action, or how have things shifted in that regard? Because as you mentioned, there are people who are still faithful to this cause and people still trying to make a difference. But in terms of the divestment, I remember that being a big part of the conversation, how that might affect things and create some material changes. So how has that shifted, or what does it look like nowadays?
To be honest, I'm not completely sure. Last summer, colleges came down extremely harsh on the encampments. I was part of the ASU encampment. The cops came. We were nonviolent protesters, organizing nonviolently, and it only became violent when the cops came. And we saw that across, countless college campuses. My alma mater, the University of Illinois, same thing with them. They just took a female student to court and tried to expel her and charge her with terrorism charges. I haven't seen. I don't know how it looks now. It certainly isn't what it was, a year ago. I think there's probably a lot of fear, but college students are resilient, and they have been on the right side of history in every major conflict and every major protest. We saw that at Kent State. We saw that in the Vietnam War. It's no different now. And there have been students in Italy that have said they'll, shut down the city should this flotilla not be able to make it. Same with the dock workers in Italy saying they will shut down trading in Europe should the global Sumud Flotilla not be able to make it. I know that's kind of going off on a tangent, but as far as what it looks like on college campuses, I can't really answer that.
Yeah. And it's funny that you mentioned Israel. We'll circle back to how people can support, because obviously you might know better than anyone else. But I think it's interesting that you've mentioned Israel, or Italy rather, a couple of times, because I was just in Italy maybe 3 weeks ago. And that was my first time there. And I took the train all up and down the country. And from the train, I was able to see the graffiti all over the country. And I learned that graffiti is an Italian word. So that place is full of graffiti, right? And there was so much graffiti that was supportive of Palestine. And when you imagine kind of the age range and kind of the station in life of many graffiti artists, it feels like it's that warrior class college age sort of individual that would take to the streets and then express their views on a canvas of a building or whatever. And yeah, I have photos in my phone of how many times I came across Free Palestine. There was some anti-Israel graffiti, no anti-Jewish graffiti, notably. There was never anything anti-Jewish, but there definitely was some anti-Israel graffiti there and so forth. So to hear you say more than once that people on the ground from Italy are in this flotilla with you to go to Gaza to make a difference, that's very encouraging to know that even if people in this country are kind of being handcuffed by this current administration in terms of expressing their free speech, et cetera, that there are communities around the planet that are still bearing in mind that the people on the ground in Palestine are human beings, that children are dying every day, and that they can do something because they are not handcuffed in the same way that people in this country are, at least that this country feels. So that's encouraging to hear.
If I can speak on it, Spain as well has shown overwhelming support for the Palestinian cause, not just the people, but their government as well. We launched from Barcelona on August 31st, and the reception at takeoff was, we're talking like 100,000 people. If you can find footage, it was breathtaking. All of these people, all ages, kids, parents, with the kufiyas, the flags, the graffiti that you mentioned. It was palpable. It's palpable everywhere. We stopped in Tunisia and saw the same thing. The support in Tunisia was overwhelming. And I understand that people in the States are being gate-kept this information by design. So I thank you for bringing that to light. All the places around the world that do support the Palestinian people and continue to center them in conversation.
I love that. So let's go back to the kind of the thrust of the inquiry about how things have evolved on college campuses. So the divestment push that has changed form, I would imagine. How can people in the U.S. that would listen to this program still support Palestinian people. Outside of, obviously we mentioned, I want to say it again, aboutfaceveterans.org. But, what can people do to lend support to you in the middle of the ocean, actually trying to make a difference for these people's lives?
Honestly, the best way to support us is to support the Palestinian people directly. And I'm talking directly, give them money, directly give them things that they need to live. I understand not everybody can get on a boat. And I also understand that not everybody has extra money to give. But what we do have is our presence. We have our intention and our time. And you can go and befriend someone in Palestine right now. They're all over the internet. You can be that loving listener. That's how we can begin to start ease the suffering of someone else. It may not seem like you're doing a lot, but it's might be more than what you're doing before. And these people, they need the solidarity. They need to know that they're not alone. I mean, honestly, can you imagine screaming into the void for 2 years and knowing the whole world is watching and nobody talks to you, nobody comes for you? Instead, they say the most horrific things about your land, your culture, and your religion. It's sick. I can't even begin to swallow it. I can't. So I guess to answer your question, I would love to see more American people befriend Palestinian people. That's fatal to the conflict. The powers that be can't tell us we're different when we go out on our own and realize, no, we are not.
Yeah. Well, I definitely appreciate that perspective, and I appreciate you taking the risk to try to make a difference. You put your money where your mouth is, and you put your body on the line, and I salute that. I appreciate you taking the time to get a satellite phone and create a Zoom connection so we could have this conversation. I just admire you so much, and I will definitely keep you in my thoughts as you hit the ground and try to make a difference. Once again, our guest is Jessica Clotfelter. She's with the About Face Veterans Delegation of the Global Sumud Flotilla. You can find her on all social media at Bay Franklin, so check out her and the work she's doing. And that's going to do it for us here on Civic Cypher. So do us a favor, check out the website, civiccypher.com. You can download this and any previous episode. You can also follow us on all social media at Civic Cypher. You can follow me on all social media at Ramses Ja.
I am Q Ward on all socials as well.
And be sure to subscribe to all of our platforms, particularly YouTube. Make a donation. The show grows with your donations. And keep on rocking with us, y'all. We appreciate you. And until next week, y'all, peace.